Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this particular video, once again, I'd like to talk about Man of Steel and a series of the complaints and criticisms that I've heard about Man of Steel, by and large, by the people who claim to be Superman fans and didn't really enjoy the film and so on and so forth. And this is an aspect of the complaints and criticisms that I haven't really touched base on wholeheartedly. I have a little bit cursorily, in previous videos where I've dealt with other criticisms and complaints. But this particular set all revolve around one overarching question, and that is, did Superman even care about the deaths being doled out by the Kryptonians? Was Superman responsible? He didn't care and that kind of thing. So it's an interesting quandary because I don't see how the hell anyone with a thinking brain can come up with it. Quite frankly, I mean, we're basically going to be looking at the destruction, doled out in Metropolis. You have a roving band of Kryptonians who want to come to Earth and cull every living being on it. Not only humanity, but all life, the life in the oceans, the animal life, the plant life, humanity as well. They want to destroy it all and reformat this Earth as a secondary Krypton, And so you have Superman meeting this head on, and it seems to me, at least, watching the film, that every step that he takes is to stop these Kryptonians from being able to do this. Now, if a person doesn't care, why would they go to extraneous efforts to try to put a stop to such, maliciousness, such evil, such genocide? It's analogous to my thinking of, you see somebody walk up to your house as you're standing out in the front lawn and set fire to it. Are you going to care about the people that are inside the house? Are you going to try to run into the house and save them and save possessions if you have time enough? Are you going to call the fire department? What are you going to do? You're going to have a very sort of gut reaction, and you're probably going to want to run in and try to save people first. Well, what if you see that person go into your house and start trying to light people on fire? What are you going to do then? Are you going to not care? Are you going to not run into the house and try to stop them? This is kind of analogous to what, basically Zod and his Kryptonians were doing. They brought the fight to Earth, and they were keeping it going. They wanted to make the point, drive home the point within the Man of Steel's psyche. We're going to do this. We are going to destroy this world if you don't give up, what we're looking for. And even if you do, that's going to be the end result. So you have Superman going to every effort he can, being a novice, not being a, years and years long superhero, only having just completed his journey of figuring out the powers he has, flight being the one he actually just finds out about prior to this. And, I hear people saying, well, he shouldn't have kept the fight going in Metropolis. He shouldn't have been throwing Zod into buildings. He shouldn't have been throwing Feora and the giant nameless Kryptonian he fights in Smallville through the 7-Eleven and so on and so forth. And I have to ask, where the hell else are you going to bring these giant Kryptonians that have the same powers you do, that can wipe the floor with you when they team up and jump on you and stuff like that? Where are you going to go? It doesn't matter if you go to an area that is less populated, because they are going to constantly bring it back to areas that are populated. Well, then I hear people saying, why couldn't Superman have just brought these Kryptonians back up to the big machine, the big spaceship, opened the Phantom Zone, and threw them all back in there? And I mean, I can surely see that point. I mean, even How It Should Have Ended did a piece where essentially the film would have been over in less than 5 minutes if that were the case. The only problem with that thinking is, if somebody leads Johnny Blues into a power plant and over to a set of controls and says, just make sure it doesn't blow up, and then leaves me to my devices, I have no idea what the hell to do. And chances are things are going to blow up because I don't have an idea. There wasn't any time for Superman to sit down for tea and crumpets with Ghost Jor-El Dad and talk about the finer tunings of the machine that opens the Phantom Zone generator and so on and so forth. Lois only gets this information because she isn't seen as a threat. She's more of a bargaining chip. And that's the whole point. Make her a bargaining chip. Try to get at Superman with somebody he has a connection with. Give him the perfect example, the sort of pinpointed, more poignant example of the humanity he's going to lose if he doesn't give up what he's supposed to give up to these Kryptonians. But of course, if he didn't care, he wouldn't try to stop them, as I say. And then you have things like, well, he isn't saving any of the lives that you see being wasted in Metropolis and Smallville. He does tell people to get off the road and hide out in their, homes and buildings and workplaces when he is in Smallville, and he knows he's going to have to throw down with Kryptonians. But this is, once again, analogous to playing a game of jacks. You have a little bouncy rubber ball, you have all of the jacks set out beside you on the sidewalk, and you're going to start playing this game. Only I'm going to walk up to you and start fist pumping your face and see how well you can play the game then. When you have unrelenting alien beings with strength and powers akin to your own ganging up on you and making the point that we will never stop. We will destroy this world. You have the choice of making it easy or you have the choice of making it hard. But one way or the other, we aren't backing down. We aren't going to stop. What other recourse is there? Then I hear the answer, well, why couldn't Superman have brought this fight with these Kryptonians, with Zod, up into space between the time when the Kryptonians were all ganging up on him and when the Phantom Zone generator had finally opened and most of them were gone and only Zod was the one left? Here's the thing. I'm going to ask all of the viewers, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, to take in a deep breath and hold that breath until I say time's up, as I describe this. Are you ready? Take in the deep breath and hold. Okay, so Superman was actually an alien born on Krypton. He was not born in space. And no living being, whether alien or otherwise, can exist in space breathing, because it is a vacuum. And essentially what happens with Superman when he does his luxurious flyovers over the world in space and stuff like that from the 1978 film to the film of current, what you have is Superman holding his breath. That's right, he's able to hold his breath in a super normal amount of time that, most humanity cannot. He could probably be up there for half an hour holding his breath, but then he'd have to come back down into the Earth's atmosphere and take in another breath, and so on and so forth. So taking the fight out to space would essentially kill him. And, unless you are a complete moron, you're going to try everything instinctively to preserve your own life. So I don't see that. Time's up. Were you able to hold your breath for that long? I doubt it. And in any case, the final leg of this that I want to talk about is that aspect of, why did Superman bring Zod back down to Metropolis? Why was he smashing him through buildings and so on and so forth? At this juncture in the fight, I think it goes without saying, as most people bang on and on and on about how long this fight sequence was, being the largest chunk in the movie history, whatever, more action than it needed and whatever, all those complaints. Well, here's the thing. Metropolis has already been toppled, so why bother going anywhere else? Why go somewhere less populated when half the city is demolished? Why not contain the fight with Zod to that area where you already know things have been done? I believe there are two aspects to this. Number one is because, as I say, why break out of that area? Why go anywhere else when there's already been tons and tons of destruction? The city has been leveled. Why go anywhere new, whether less populated or not? You should keep it contained to as small an area as you can, with the whole world on, the table as far as hanging in the balance, being in danger. You're still going to keep it to the one little contained area that has already been destroyed. So he brings Zod right back down, and that's where the thick of their battle goes. I also believe there's an aspect of it psychologically where Superman wants to show Zod the pain that he is being caused. And that is to say, Superman is being caused by Zod's actions. And by putting a face to that pain, by trying to show him the people, this is what leads to this final encounter where essentially Superman has no recourse and has to kill Zod by twisting his neck, breaking his neck, because he too is seeing the face. He's seeing the poignance of the family right in front of him that Zod is trying to burn away with his laser vision, his heat vision. And I believe that, there's an aspect of Zod, you must see what you're doing is wrong. But it backfires, and there is no recourse, and Superman must, as painful it isn't a triumph, it isn't saving the day. It's murder for the sake of preservation, self-preservation, world preservation. The only way he can save the entirety of the planet and every living being on it, all manner of life on it, is to do this one final act. And it tortures him. And I believe in the next movie it may torture him even further. I would be surprised, and I would think it very remiss if they don't touch on this again, especially with the added aspect of Batman probably coming in there and being adversarial in the first meeting and so on and so forth. And I really just believe that, you're not thinking things through if you're coming up with these kinds of criticisms, talking about Superman doesn't care, talking about Superman doesn't take the time to try to save lives. The people making complaints like this are somewhat moronic. Either they are moronic and they're really not thinking through what they're even saying, what they're even suggesting, and actually looking at it, every little detail of it and putting it through a brain process, a thinking process. They must then have a dislike for the character. By and large, what they got with Man of Steel was something they've been clamoring for years. Ever since Superman Returns, that was not full of action, that was telling an off-the-wall story with a Superman that was much more super stalker than anything else, and Man of Steel comes along and answers everybody's wants, does it over the top, and suddenly this too is a problem. This goes back to something I've said before, which is the contrariness of fandom and how, they're kind of like turncoats in the fact that they compare it to Marvel, and Marvel is supposed to be all about the science fiction and the being more based and closely related to reality. And then you have a Man of Steel movie come along, a Superman film come along that embraces that very vein of storytelling, and you don't like it. And then you have Marvel films that are much more fantastical, much less based in realism, and you're fanboying over that. So it doesn't make sense. It seems like people really aren't thinking for themselves as far as that this is Superman. This is the hero they know and love, with circumstances around him being extraneous and insane, and him going to every length he can to put a stop to it. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you think of this line of thinking and all of these analogies that I've made to hopefully better describe and explain why Superman does in fact care when lives are being lost in Man of Steel, how the weight of the world is on his shoulders and he's doing everything possible to try to put a stop to the mad Kryptonian roving gang that wants to cull the world. And of course, I'd love to hear what your perspective on that all is. I already know that there are probably one or two of you I can cherry pick out of a hat right now that are going to be very eager to respond to this, and so I eagerly await hearing that. And otherwise, that'll be it for me on this. I hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.